Metaphysical life mastery. When did you wake up?
I woke up around 2009 after many years of going to church every Sunday, lots of prayer, Bible study, study amongst the family, a lot of talks amongst the family about religion and Christian doctrine. And one day I had questions about the nature of Christian doctrine and how they teach us in the churches. And I noticed the reaction that family members had and people around me in the church had, including deacons and elders and other clergymen and women, and they could not answer some of my questions. And I said, well, if you are connected to God, wouldn't God give you these answers? If the Bible is the end all be all, why don't you have answers to these questions? And I'm not saying that, you need to be a know it all, but it was at that moment that I began to not only question what I was being told and that there was more to the story, as it were, I also began to ask, is this God that they teach even real? So there was a time during that period where I became an agnostic. And then things began to happen to me that put me back on the other side of the fence of being a so called believer in the higher powers, the supreme creator and creatrix.
So, what do you feel like your belief is now?
Personally, I know there is a higher power, and some people, call, whether people call that God, the Most High, Supreme Creator, Supreme Creatrix, Supreme Intelligence. I know it's real because things began to happen to me to enlighten me to the nature of a spiritual realm. And I had been having these experiences since I was a little girl, seeing things and feeling things and hearing things. But I would often doubt myself and just say, "Oh, that I didn't really see that. I didn't really feel that. My vision was tripping that day. I didn't see that shadow cross that hallway back there. It was really like some Haley Joel Osment, I see dead people type of stuff. And so
Wow.
that was happening as a child. And then when I began to question the existence of a higher power, that's when they said, okay, we're going to really show you what it is then. Yes. Mhm.
Wow.
And so my belief system now is that the spiritual realm is real. There's so much out there that's unseen. I can't even quantify it in words to what I feel the vastness of it is and the complexity of it is. I can't even put it into words. It's really mind boggling. And I've felt these things. I've had so many spiritual experiences or paranormal, or as some people say, preternatural experiences, that I could really write a book on them because, and my family members have had these experiences. It's just that some of them have been afraid to share them. I've had friends that have opened up to me and said, what you shared with me, I had a similar experience where I saw a being or a spirit touched me or this happened or that happened. So I am a full believer in a higher power and the nature of the spiritual realm being real, full on sold out.
A lot of people say they refer to themselves as I am a god. A lot of humans. My question to you is it possible that metaphysical life mastery, Bree, is it possible that you are the source and you're just pulling from your own consciousness? Is it possible that you are a god?
It is possible. It is possible because of the nature of the human mind to create that reality within itself. This has even been depicted in shows like Supernatural, which are now on Netflix. All the seasons are on there, where they show the archangel going into his own mind and being trapped there and having the universe within his own mind and it being a projection. So, yes, it's possible that we are all gods and goddesses. Um, And then, you can even take it back to that verse in Genesis where it talks about, let us make man in our image. Who is us, though? Is it just the higher powers, or is it humans that came here before, or humans that came from another star system? So I believe that's absolutely possible and real. I think it's a worthy concept to look into because, as it says in the Bible, ye shall do greater things than me. And if that was a God saying that, then you must be on that level at a minimum. Just going into the philosophical aspect of it, you must be on that level. If Yeshua was purported to say, "Ye shall do greater things," and he was depicted as a God, then you must be on God level to do greater things. That's my line of thinking on that.
Now, we about to have a real conversation tonight, family. Now, let me just throw this on the table. In order to believe in God, do you have to believe in man since man delivered God's message?
When you say believe in man's, excuse me, in man, what on what level do you mean, philosophically or logically?
Both. As far as you trust man to deliver, the divine message.
That's a complex question because if man can be as God, then that would make him one and the same. So you would have to believe in him if you believe in God. That's just my logical deduction. If you believe man can be a God, then you must therefore also believe that man can transmit God's messages. But I could be wrong. I'm questioning myself on that. That's a deep question. How did you come up with that?
I don't know. But it's because I thought about that the other day when I was just working, and I was just like, okay, a lot of people believe in the Bible, but if you believe the words and the scriptures that are in the Bible, then you have to believe in man, because they said that disciples, you know, translated, the message from Jesus, a God. So
Right.
that's how I tell So it just came to me. I don't know. The source asked
That's
me to ask you that question.
excellent. That's excellent, my G. That's an excellent question because I've never thought of it that way. I've always dissected it into one or the other. I've never combined the two. And I feel that if you believe in God, then you have to believe in man because man is supposedly the image of God, as they say. So it's
That's
can't have one
tough.
without the other, really.
Right. Now, if Michael Jordan was a woman, I'm looking at you like the Mike Jordan of exposing just all the wickedness and the evil, the Illuminati. Um,
Oh my gosh.
you like the 23. Your jersey is in the
Oh my
Raptors,
gosh.
and like I said,
I
you brought me
appreciate
out of
that.
retirement. I promised myself. I said I will never be a fan. I will never be a fanatic of anyone. I can't idol worship. But goddamn, I started listening to some of your videos. You started talking about your life path number. You started talking about gang stalkers, and you really triggered a nerve. And I'm like, God damn it. And I binge watch your videos, and it's just like I said, I'm forever a student, and I'm so glad I can have a teacher on the show today. But my next question is, what does it feel like being an anomaly in the Matrix?
Well, thank you so much for your gracious compliments. You're making me blush, my face all red and stuff. Hey, I felt so out of the box, out of place, disheveled, discombobulated when I started to wake up and realize, wait a minute. Number one, I've been being lied to, and number two, the people that I thought had control do not have control. So being an anomaly in the matrix was at first very lonely. It's still lonely, but it's just not to that extent because I have other people I can communicate with. And people are just waking up in droves. I've been seeing these prophetic messages on different channels, spiritual and metaphysical truther channels, conscious channels of look at how many people are waking up. And so that's why I was like, truth is, we got to get it because people are looking for answers and they are tired. And so for me being an anomaly in the matrix, there was a time, probably about 8 to 10 years ago, where I started to realize that I was not from here in a way, excuse me, I was not from here because I was so different. And it seemed like most of the circles that I went into, I was cast out of because my spirit did not go along with the status quo and the programming. I could not accept the programming of religion or Christianity. Now, Christianity has its benefits, but the programming for me, I went along with because it was the right thing for me to do, and I thought that was the way. But just like Neo in the Matrix documentary thought that was the way, the rat race, until he realized another path. So being an anomaly is lonely. It's difficult at times, but the more you realize things and the more you come into the realization that you are the one who holds the power at the end of the day, they can trick and deceive and create illusions all they want. Those of us who see through it, we hold the keys because at any moment, it takes one of us speaking or producing content or getting up and writing something that will destroy that illusion for the right people. Hmm. Appreciate it.
Being self aware, it's exhausting, in my opinion. Do you wish that you were ever still asleep?
I do not. I do not because there was so much abuse in being asleep. For me personally, being asleep meant that I accepted a lot of things that I had no business accepting, even from our own so called government, our controllers of our mental, of our mind. So there was a lot of abuse in that, and it's very disempowering and disenfranchising. So while King Solomon is attributed to saying, with much knowledge comes much grief, I'd rather have the grief than not know what's going on. There were times when I was like, well, when I first woke up, well, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is just too much. Because when I went down the rabbit hole into these old texts and learned about the true history of the world and began to get all these cosmic messages, I was like, oh my gosh, it's I'm overwhelmed. It was like being fried, it was just like zapped. And this is why some people, when they begin to awaken or begin to awaken, they were called crazy and are called crazy. And some of them are put into mental hospitals and mental wards because people think they are crazy because they're getting so much information and the scales fall off, as they call it. A lot of times the scales will fall off all at once, and it's overwhelming to the mind when you have that cognitive dissonance and you have that societal conditioning to believe things are as they are when they are not that way. So I personally don't wish any longer. There were a few times when I first woke up around 2009 2010 that I wished that, okay, why did you give me this truth? And I know I asked, but I did I really ask? Like okay, I know I signed up to be proven wrong because, like I said, I was going the agnostic route, and you are proving to me that this is wrong. But how far this goes and the path that it's setting me on, am I ready for this? And then so for a moment, I was like, well, maybe I should have just stayed asleep. But then I realized no, because I have a responsibility. They would not have woken me up if I didn't have a great responsibility to help other people. And since then, since I woke up, a lot of my relatives have woken up, friends and other people have felt confident enough to speak on the things that they've always wondered about and things that they silently battled with that they weren't courageous enough to speak on before, because that's what programming does. It programs you to be within a box. So I'm glad that I woke up, and I'll always be grateful for that, because it creates a lot of freedom. It creates a lot of freedom and expansion in your awareness, like you said, being self-aware, and also just not giving a giving a damn. It's like, yeah, I know y'all lying, okay, and I'm still gonna have a good day though. Go ahead and lie to
You
the people.
you
We're gonna sit back and eat this popcorn and watch you.
you use the word responsibility. That's a powerful word in the context of, you know, uh, helping people wake up. Now, do you feel like a lot of people might look at you like you're crazy if you feel like it's your responsibility to enlighten them?
I do because they're the first one of the first things they're going to say is, okay, why? Why would it be you? Who chose you? Who are you? What accolades and accomplishments do you have? So yes, I definitely feel that way. But there are so many of us out there, and collectively, we are a force to be reckoned with. We are a force.
What are some consequences of waking up or reconnecting with your soul, becoming self aware? What are some personal consequences that you might have had to deal with?
Well, relationships become difficult, very difficult, because you're not in the same mindset that you used to be in pre-awakening. Relationships with family, friends, co-workers, colleagues or associates, other people become strained because those people a lot of times are not on the level or on the same path. And if they are on the path or they get on the path later, you're a lot of times ahead of them. So then they start to consider you a heretic. And we all know in the history of the world what they did to heretics. So it's dangerous. This day and age, we have a lot of freedom of speech, and technology enables us to say what we need to say and how we want to say it. But there's still a lot of censorship and shadow banning, and people are still being punished for speaking out against the powers that be. Just thank God it's not, the way it used to be with the burning at the stake and the rack and all these other torture devices. But it's it can cause you to be alienated from your social group, because that's what happened to me. I was always the so-called black sheep of my family, simply because I had an independence and a stubbornness, if you will, to and inquisitiveness to ask questions about things that I felt, if the answers were right and truthful, would help other people. I always had a nature of seeing through lies and picking up on deceivers. And so that made me the black sheep by nature, and the one that other people felt needed to be put in line. So it can cause alienation, it can cause even stagnancy in certain societal areas of the life, like work, school. There are certain clubs and jobs that if they see you posting certain things on social media, you will not be hired, you will not be admitted as a member. So you have to develop a strength and inner strength, and you can even pull that from source and the universe around you. You have to develop an inner strength to be able to tolerate that, and to have a drive that, okay, this truth is more important than whatever other people are going to say about it. If they don't like it, that's fine, but it has to go forth for those who do like it and who do need it. So I was willing to suffer for it, and am.
I personally feel like people that are slaves to that hive mentality, I personally I look at them like terrorists because if we're gonna have a
I like
real
that.
if we're gonna have a real conversation, because if
Hmm.
you know look at all these protests and just these people that it's kind of like, these people are kind of like fucking our cell phones. They receive a download or an update, and then they just move accordingly. It's no individual thought. It's no, people aren't consulting themselves. It's just okay. This is the narrative, and now we move. It's a hive army out there, and it's actually very terrifying to be in the midst of these people that are just they don't think for themselves.
That's true. I think terrorist is an accurate term for them. I think it's accurate because they will terrorize you to the end of your days if you don't
Yes.
line up with what they want you to do and think.
For just
I mean,
having a different state of mind. That's
yes,
it.
yes. Oh my goodness. We used to call them, no, when I first got into the truth community, we used to call them drones a lot. But now, sleepers and sheeple, that's the more prominent. But terrorists, I think that's accurate because those are the ones who want to go along with the agenda. Well, and then you want to crucify and make the town pariah of anybody else who doesn't agree. So, how do we deal with those people is my question. I kind of shut them out.
you know how we got to deal with them. You know how we got to do. We not gonna say that on
I
internet
shut
though.
them out, and yeah, I shut them out. I'm just rebellious like that in my mindset when I know they're lying and they're just trying to play games with people's souls and their minds. I just ain't trying to hear it. So I dare them. I really dare them. Okay, I dare you to stop me then. If you want to tell your lie. But I'm going to counter it with the truth as I know it, as much truth as I can bring. So I guess we're just gonna have World War III or World War IV up in here because whatever you're saying, if it's a lie and it's misleading, I gotta come against it. I can't spend the night and sit well with myself if I know something's wrong and I let it ride. And that's probably something to do with my soul and
Um,
all of that. But
oh, that's definitely real.
I think the world is in a place where the world is hungering for information that is of a different variety.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. We're in the age of Aquarius that represents truth, right?
Right, right. And some people say it's not the age of Aquarius, but many people say it is. And Aquarius is over the crown chakra, and Aquarius is the revolutionary, the rebel, the free thinker, the logical person, the person who has that intellect and that quick mindset to discern one thing from another. So most definitely, I believe we are in the age of Aquarius,
Now,
and this is what's needed in
I
the world.
I call this a simulation. I personally feel like we're living in an artificial intelligence program, just based off my personal life. But we gotta address the duality. So we spoke on the negative consequences. Let's speak on the positive benefits. In your personal opinion, Bree, what is the best thing about being self-aware? What was the best thing for you about waking up?
The best thing for me about waking up was not just for myself and the strength and awareness it gave me, but how many people it has helped. That is the best thing. That is why I continue to do content and say the things that I say and put the energy into it because I know people are receiving it and I know people want that, and there are so many other distractions out there. I felt inspired to know that people were vibing with it. That is the best thing for me. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about fame. I didn't care if the channel, became popular. I just wanted people to hear the truth and for people to feel like, okay, I may not be able to get up there and say this, but somebody's speaking for me. That was my motivation and still is. Mhm.
Family, we got metaphysical life mastery in the building. Why did you wake up? Definitely want to shout out that live chat. They're showing you a lot of love in that live chat, Bree.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much to everybody that tuned in. Much love and much respect to all the gods and goddesses, the kings and queens out there. I really appreciate y'all.
All right, let's dive a little bit deeper. We gonna have we still
Okay.
having a real conversation. Um,
Right.
let me see. Let me see, because I really want to pry your mind right here. Um, if you could go back in time before you were able to see, what things really were, before you had that discernment unlocked, what would you be the most mad at yourself for believing in?
I will be the most mad at myself for believing in the government caring about the people. And I would also be almost as equally upset about believing the promotion that you are a fallen human being and almost like an animal that is promoted in many Christian or Protestant circles. I would be equally more so mad at the man, but still quite aggravated at 20 almost 30 years spent hearing that, and it's like being whipped like a slave, in my opinion. Now, this is no disrespect to people who are in religion, because I have a lot of friends who are, and their benefits and pros and cons to religion, as well as pros and cons of spirituality. But I was really mad at myself for believing that, oh, we live in this great nation that cares about people, even though our history has shown everything to the contrary. That is my um, conundrum. Most of the stuff that I have talked about is the propaganda and the lies sold to the people.
Now, this was a question I really wanted to. I really want you to expound upon. Oh shit, low key using vocabulary words. What's your definition of spiritual poison?
My definition of spiritual poison would be uh, someone, something, or a doctrine that removes the power from the person and puts it with another individual, because that is the definition of making a slave. So that to me is high grade witchcraft slash spiritual poison. Um, you got the dead creating more dead, but then saying they leaving the dead in a way, in so-called, you know, allegory or esoteric terms.
Um, Now a lot of people have a different definition of the word or the term or the phrase conspiracy theorist. Oh man.
Hmm.
When you did wake up, do you feel like you became a conspiracy theorist by default as far as, society standards?
By society standards, absolutely. Absolutely. When I first woke up, I went into the conspiracy theory forums and channels and chat rooms, and I would definitely fit that description perfectly at the time. I think I stayed in that vein for about a year or two, about a year or two before I began to realize, okay, some of this stuff is just cockamamie and not legitimate either. So, and then when I figured out the whole agency agency tactic behind creating that terminology, then of course I woke up again and shied away from that. And while there are conspiracy theories out there that I follow, and that and there are theories that I think have legitimacy behind them, I don't like to call myself a conspiracy theorist, because people automatically label you a whack job when you do that. So I only go along with those so-called conspiracies that I've done research on, and that spiritually I feel are worth looking into and are legitimate. Um, because conspiracy theory could go into so many different areas. It's like, since they created that terminology and it really became popular in the mid to late 90s, now they can call anything that doesn't agree with mainstream media conspiracy theory, and we know mainstream media lies every day.
The
So,
mainstream media is legally allowed to lie to us with the repeal of
hmm,
the Smith-Month Act. So it means
that's
that,
right.
and a lot of people, they just don't, they're ignorant of that, and they probably don't give a fuck, but they don't care that the government is allowed to promote propaganda via the media if it benefits the government. They don't. I'll never understand why they don't. If nothing else, why they don't care that CNN or
Hmm.
MSNBC is allowed legally to lie to us. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm. I don't understand it either. Or the only thing I can say about it is it's probably because they have so many other distractions that some people just don't have the room in their heart, mind, and soul to care about the truth. The truth is something that is sharp, like the Bible talked about, um, and the word of God is a two-edged sword or double-edged sword, cleaving flesh from bone and soul from spirit. So when you deal with the truth and it's raw and it's hard hitting, a lot of people can't handle that. It's just too powerful for them. And some people may believe truth in certain areas, but not others. And that's a little bit of a touchy subject there. But I think for most people, they just don't have the gall to care or the audacity to speak out against blatant lies being told to the public. And the people that do speak out about it, they say, "Oh well, why don't you find something better to do?" Or "Who made you the authority?" Or "Why would I trust you over CNN?" Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, they put to
Hmm.
production over the message, and low key T always tells the kids. I
Hmm.
tell the kids, low key T is not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy analyst, and the longer that I'm breathing, I'm a reality expert. It just
Hmm.
seems like I'm developing some sort of like higher learning to where I can anticipate what people gonna do before they do it, or whatever propaganda is coming out. I can see the agendas coming before they happen. Like with this, where I live at in Jersey, they're making it mandatory for you to put a mask on. That Anthony Fauci and the Surgeon General said don't protect you from anything. Anthony Fauci said you shouldn't even Americans shouldn't be wearing the mask. This is all verbatim, and it's just like when who is telling us to do these things when they're on TV saying the opposite? It's just my mind is blown at the herd mentality. It's just I feel like are we at a point where no people are going to fight like humans are not going to fight back? Are we have they completed their mission as far as the elites, as far as just making us completely, or at least the masses completely submissive? Do you feel like they've completed that mission?
I think that they are maybe 70% of the way complete because at this point in 2020, if people have not figured out that the government is not really in the line of doing the right thing by them, then I would say I just feel 70% of the way they have it in the bag. 70%, because all it's going to take is another world war and people are going to fall. It'll be 100 then. If it takes another world war with multiple countries involved and the U.S. involved and just catastrophic fallout in whatever war theater they're going to create, it'll be 100% then. Other than it'll be 100% of those people that aren't in the truther genre or haven't received truth before. If they have not received it before, and we're getting close to that point where something so-called big might happen, and a lot of people are warning about it. Then I think that they are more than halfway through with their agenda. I don't know how many years it could drag out as far as when they might be complete. They may not even have another world war for a long time, but they're playing a lot of games, and the fact that they let the person who's in the White House get in the White House tells me that they're pretty effective at what they're doing. Mhm.
Now let's get even deep into this conversation. As a woman, I consider you a divine feminine. I consider you like
Well, thank you.
when a woman graduates to the mentality that she's supposed to vibrate at. That's how, and I never met you in life or nothing like that, but that's just how I feel like we need way more women like Bree, aka Metaphysical Life Mastery. So my thing is, as far as the simulation, as far as the civilization we live in right now, do you personally feel like it's harder for uh, women to wake up or men to wake up?
Oh, that's a great question. In my experience, I find it more difficult for men to wake up in a lot of ways. Not always, but maybe it has something to do with that feminine perceptivity and the ancient um, concept of the gods, the goddesses of the ancient cultures, the sibyls, the sages, the oracles, which were mostly women. Now we had the magi and many wise men, wizards, magicians, etc., warlocks that had a huge amount of knowledge. But this day and age, I think it's even for a small time in the last couple of years, I've noticed that women are waking up more quickly, and it could have to do with this divine feminine energy, as they want to call it, coming in with maybe the concept of the new age concept of new earth and goddesses rising again. I notice more women are being activated, but that's not to say that it's easier for women. It just seems to be that they're rising more quickly at the moment, but the tide could easily shift. And but thank you for your compliment. I do consider myself a divine feminine, but it was because someone else blessed me with that title a while ago. And it took a lot of hard work and going through the dark night of the soul, as they call it, and being on the brink of death, even for me to get to this place. Some people would ask me, as a woman, what books did you read? Or where did you get this information? Well, some information, of course, is regurgitated because there is nothing new under the sun, but then there are other things, the way that I explain them, that's channeled information from the ether, from the higher dimensions. Because after I say it, sometimes I'll just forget it. It just comes through the portal of the vessel, as it were, and then it goes out, and I don't remember until someone reminds me of what I said. And this even happens in personal consultations that I have with people as well. So I think women are just there may be a frequency going on right now where women are just more activated or becoming more activated, but the men are in the fold too, because I see just as many men with truther channels. um, in fact, I see more men with truther channels than I do women, and it could just be the bravery of men and the capability of men. And women may feel like, okay, well, there's still some patriarchal um, indoctrination going on, because women may feel like, okay, well, the so-called conspiracy and truther community is dominated by men, so women may feel out of place, but they shouldn't, because there's space for everybody. And the more voices of both sexes that there are, the more it's going to benefit people in general, because there are some men out there that are just not going to hear it from a woman. So, there's that. But and even if they hear it from a woman, they're not going to give her credit. They're going to give another man credit for it. So, but I don't let any of that bother me. It doesn't bother me at all.
I just think it's just because the way that I grew up, a lot of the women in my life, from my family members to women I was in relationships with, none of them, that pineal gland was, super calcified. Uh,
Oh, wow.
a lot of the girls that love, and I'm ashamed to say it, but it's just what the universe, it's the cards the universe dealt me. Like the girls that I'm used to, they probably listening to WAP right now. That's
Oh, wow.
and it's just like that's why I started this journey, because I just wanted to surround myself, not necessarily like look for females, but surround myself with people that are loyal to the truth. You know what I'm saying? But can you speak on, as far as your city's effect of waking up with, your hometown where you grew up? Can you speak on the effect of your hometown, what it played on you reconnecting with your soul, whether it be positive or negative, or distracting you or bringing you into discernment?
Oh, sure. Okay, so I'm originally from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I live in South Carolina. I live in the mid-state. Excuse me. I live not too far from the capital, Columbia, and I actually used to live in Columbia. So I live in Sumter, South Carolina for now, and I've been living here because my family moved here from Myrtle Beach back in 92, 93, and so I've been living here off and on for a while. I've lived for about 7 years in North Carolina, and then I lived in Columbia for a while, and then I lived overseas for about 4 or 5 months. But this town drove me up the wall. Okay, this town drove me up the wall, and it started happening in the mid 2000s, around 2005, 2006. I started becoming very, very frustrated, and I was what, 21, 20, 22 around that time, 22, 23. I was very, very frustrated with the lack of opportunities in general, but especially for young African American people in this town. And I noticed the redlining, the racism with property, how they wanted to relegate black people to one side of town and then white people to another side. And if you want to rent a certain property, you better be the right skin color, you better speak your English a certain way. That kind of stuff was going on. And then the strong religious oppression, even though I was still in the church, so to speak, back then and attending church regularly, I began to get really frustrated with the stagnancy that is here and the fact that nobody seemed to want to grow. All people wanted to do here was go out to Shoney's, go out to Golden Corral, and go to church and go to school and go to work. That's all they had to do here.
They was
And
out there
and,
parking
and it
lot pimping at
drove me
Golden
crazy.
Corral.
Yeah, they hang out at Sonic at the drive-through fast food joint. Sonic and the movie theater, and maybe going to the mall, which ain't shit. There was nothing to do here, and people just did not care. And it began to really get under my skin when I was about 22, 23. And then when I got to be between the ages of 24 and 27, I really started to wake up because I moved out of state and I moved to a very progressive city in North Carolina, Durham, which is outside of Raleigh. So I moved to the Raleigh Durham area, and it was like night from day. Number one, the state of North Carolina is far more advanced than the state of South Carolina anyway. And so moving to that area and seeing how well African American people and minorities were doing and how easy it was to start a small business and just live a good life, it was like culture shock. And so I was like, okay, there's no excuse for this here. It's because the people don't want to change. The people have the power. If they don't want to change, then the government's not going to change. And so that was the most aggravating aspect of waking up, because I actually refused. When I woke up and I was in North Carolina, I was like, I told my family, I said, I will never, unless I have no choice, I will never move back there, because it was like a dark cloud over the city and over the area of slave mentality. Just people just don't care. You see them in Walmart with their slippers and their bonnets on, pajamas on in Walmart in the daytime, just hood. And I ain't got no problem with hood people, right? Because I talk kind of ratchet, and I grew up in the hood a long time ago. But it's just like there was no desire, there was no outlet for them, there was no youth centers and real good youth programs for the young ones coming up. There were no entertainment venues other than a movie theater. Two movie theaters, one of which went out of business. There was just nothing here, and people would have to travel to Columbia or other cities for entertainment and to have a good time, or they would go down to Myrtle Beach. But that cloud of oppression that I felt over this city made it difficult. And I don't believe I don't believe I would have woke up around that time had I been living here, because I was not in an energetic environment to wake up had I stayed here. So me going to North Carolina and being around North Carolina Central, which is a HBCU, and Duke University, and being in Research Triangle Park, which has, one of the highest per capita concentrations of PhDs in the country, that and UNC Chapel Hill, being near these people in this environment where there is so much diversity and so many thinkers is what facilitated me to wake up. It was like being in the right portal. It was like being in the right portal.
That word is so powerful as well. You striking a lot of nerves over here because Wow. And I got to shout out one of the kings that introduced that word to me, because I never really thought about portals until, from what I felt like I was being gang stalked from, individuals just instantly appearing in certain places, as soon as you come around, or, situations like that. And what is your, as far as portals, could you give me some insight into what your definition of a portal is, and, what kind of entities may come from it?
My personal definition of a portal is um, a space or an area or or I would have to say a space, you know, a time space continuum, if you will, where things are different. Things may look the same, but they are not the same. If you think of that movie Inception, it depicted portals pretty accurately. Even the show on Netflix called The Witcher, where they're able to open portals and close them at whim. But there are a lot of creatures and interdimensional beings that exist just outside of this reality that's perceivable with the five senses. So sight, taste, touch, hearing. Um, we some people are perceptible. They can pick up on these portals easily. Others not so much, and then others notice the portal when there's certain activity going on. So some people can actually feel the vortex or the portal depending on where they go. Like they say, Sedona, Arizona has a very powerful vortex there, and a lot of people go there to visit for that reason. So some people can feel it energetically, and other people not so much. And then others notice there's a vortex or a portal open or a portal in that space because of there being certain paranormal activity. So a variety of different entities, in my personal opinion, can use portals, extraterrestrials, cryptids, and what they would call, so a cryptid would be something like Sasquatch or werewolf or um, also known as lycanthrope. Other mythological animals can use portals, as well as demonic spirits and even Nephilim. Some people say giants can also use them, jinn or genies. So there's so many different types of entities, but um, the moon is also connected to portals and the sun as well. So various planets are connected to that as well. So it's a very complex subject. But when I speak about waking up, I believe I was just in the right portal because of the energies around there for that to happen. It's almost like when I went to that place, my vibration was increased. And so naturally, I had to level up. I had no choice. Some people can go to places and it not happen to them, but I had no choice being around that kind of environment, um, but to wake up.
Now that you ascended spiritually, do you hate this physical vessel?
No, no, I don't. I don't hate it at all. It can be a pain in the ass, but but I don't hate it. I love the vessel. I love the vessel. I don't hate the vessel. I just sometimes hate the plane. Plane. So, which is this 3D plane, because as I often say, it's like a hell realm, and it's a lot of bullshit that goes on here. And so I don't mind the vessel. It's just I'd like to be able to leave here a lot of times, and yeah, come back as needed. But I don't, being here is like being in prison. That's the concept of the Matrix. So that gets on my nerves a little bit, but I've learned to deal with it, and I just go with the flow. I've learned to enjoy enjoy the vices of this plane.
And I really appreciate your vibration, like we were talking about off air. Like, I feel like when you talk to certain people, I'm not gonna say you feel like you've known them forever, but you can just sense like, yo, this person is just, they on that wave, they on the same wavelength, they on the same vibration, and you feel like you not even physically talking to them. You feel like your souls is just, you know what I'm saying, chopping it up. And even down
Right.
to this morning, how, the devil was trying to block the live. They were fucking with your phone or your laptop. They were fucking with my Wi-Fi, right? And I don't want to give that any energy, but we were both sipping this one. We woke up sipping. That targeted
Yes.
life. That targeted individual lifestyle. They don't know shit about it. But
Oh,
we
heck
we
no.
we I didn't want to embarrass myself, but I was honest. I was like, I'm over here sipping on a mimosa. I ain't gonna lie. Sponsored by Grey Goose. You told me you was sipping on something harder, and I was like, God damn. So like
Yes,
it's just
God.
it's crazy, and like I said, shout out Metaphysical Life Mastery, aka Bree. This is When Did You
Hey,
Wake
thank
Up,
you.
man.
Shout out to PT.
This is an honor for me. Like I said, I'm forever a student. I don't think I'll ever be able to be a teacher. But the next question I did want to ask you is, because as a teacher, you got to give out the lessons, man. And what activities do you do to exercise mentally?
Oh wow, that's a good question. The main thing that I do is I listen to a lot of different sound frequencies and I read a lot. So I read books on various topics of interest and I'm very visual. I'm auditory too, but I'm a very visual person, so I watch a lot of documentaries. I do a lot of reading, but sound is very important for me and I noticed some years ago that it's very healing for me. And some people don't believe in the power of binaural beats, but I believe in the power of frequency because I've noticed changes right away. There's been times when I've had physical pain and I turn on the right frequency and that pain is gone within 3 minutes. I mean, pain that I couldn't get rid of otherwise. And it could be placebo effect, but I personally don't believe it's placebo effect because I know what the powers that be do with sound, and I know how destructive it can be and how healing it can be. So, sound is a big part of my mental tune-up as well. Some days, I'm in a ratchet mood, and I put on the Rick Ross or the Ti or you know the Logic and the Eminem or whatever. And then other days, I'm in a mood of okay, I want to listen to spa relaxation music or mantras, Hindi mantras, Kali Ma, Krishna. I listen to songs of the Orisha as well, Shango, Oya, Obatala, etc. So I go with whatever my mind says at the time. So I have so many different. I think I listen to every genre of music except for there are two that I really don't mess with, which is death metal, and I'm not a big fan of country music, but there are some country songs that I like. So death metal and country music I really don't mess with too much, but classical and everything else in between, A to Z, alternative to Zydeco, I listen to it and I just go based off of what my body is feeling and what my mind is saying at the time, and I listen to a lot of podcasts as well. So other truthers, that's a big part. So if I'm gearing up to talk about some subject, I get a download about what music I need to hear, what frequency I need to be tuning into, and then that gives me the charge up or the energy to say what I need to say in whatever I'm gonna come out with. But yeah, I really appreciate all the love you show me and all the respect, and thank you to the people in the chat as well.
Yeah, they just here. They tagging along for this legendary conversation. Now, I ask a lot of people that I have on this show, do you feel like this is your first life? But based on, the information you put on the table about your life path number being 9, correct me if I'm wrong, and 9 representing the number of completion, do you feel like your soul has completed its journey personally?
Well, my life path number is 8. So, but the
Wow.
nine life path number is about completion, and many people do say that once you get when if you have a 9 life path number, then that can be your last incarnation. But I personally don't see that as the rule. I think that can be that's possible and likely, but I don't think that's the only time that you can have your last incarnation with the concept of being an old soul. Um, so my life path number is 8, and that's about power and ambition, but it's also connected to Saturn and karma because 8 is a karmic number. And so I have the life path number 8, and I was born in the eighth zodiac, which is Scorpio. And so that's the 11th month. So 8 and 11 are all throughout my name. My birth date is 11. I mean, my birth weight is 11. My first name has 8 letters, all of that. Um, and so I end up being karma personified for people because of that life path number of 8. Nelson Mandela also had the 8 life path number, and so did Martin Luther King Jr. So those are two very powerful people, and yet you could see their heart for the world and a desire for change. And 8 is all about change as well. When it comes to incarnation, I didn't really know how long I had been here until about 4 or 5 years ago. I This might have been more like 4 years ago. I had an experience. It was almost like astral travel. Well, I guess it would be more of an astral experience, or it wasn't a dream because I wasn't dreaming, but I began to get really interested in past lives. And so I had heard that if you ask a specific Archangel Raziel, about past lives, that is the archangel that is supposed to provide information on that. And I had done a lot of deep research into the Clavicula Salomonis, or the Key of Solomon, the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Testament of Solomon. And in those texts, and also the Ars Geisha and other texts, Ars Paulina, these are grimoires and old texts that talk about angels being dedicated to certain zodiacs, certain months of the year, certain days of the week, and certain other things that human beings need help on. So I had heard about Archangel Raziel being over past lives, and one day I decided to ask just to see what would happen. And so what happened was I had an experience where this archangel spoke to me, and it was a voice I had never heard before. And I knew it wasn't demonic because demonic voices have a different frequency, and from my experience. So the archangel spoke and was like, okay, I'll show you. And I literally saw myself come down from another dimension, like they show Thor come down to Earth in those Marvel movies, and other superheroes come from another galaxy or star system. I saw myself up in another dimension or in another star system with other people of all nationalities, or races or ethnic backgrounds, as we would call them here on Earth. And they were asking for people to come here, and I was one of the people to volunteer, one of the first people to volunteer to come here. And when I landed
Wow.
here, the angel said it was 3008 BC. Well, that's 80, that's 38 or 83, and I was born in 83. And then that's also 11, which is all over my birth date, time, and all that. So he showed me that I came here, but I came here in I landed here in India. And the creepy thing was I saw myself there in India. I was an herbalist slash healer slash diviner, and I would give people herbs and treatments that they couldn't afford. I would just give it to them for free and help them. And at the age of 56, which is 11, I died. And I died of malaria, and I watched them burn my body. That's how they dispose of
Oh
bodies there.
my
It was along
God.
the Ganges River. I watched them burn my body. I could look in my face and see that it was me. I just looked slightly different. Like it was a soul recognition. I could see it was me. I just looked slightly different. And I watched them burn my body. And the fact that he said, you died of, I said, what did I die of? He was right there. He's like, you died of malaria. And the crazy thing is, I have a gene now that prevents me from dying of malaria. That is
Oh
in a
my
phenotype in my
God.
blood that traces back to India. So I couldn't believe it. I didn't even process all of this at once. It was after the fact that I realized, okay, I have a gene that prevents that and that is associated with that, and then also traces back, the phenotype traces back to India and some Arab nations. So then he showed me another life, which was in Norway. So I had, I only saw a portion of that life right after that because, and I don't even know what year it was. I just know I was about 7 years old and I saw my mother and I was in another body. And I looked like a young Norwegian girl and my mother looked like she was a Norwegian woman. But when I telepathically asked the angel, who is my father and can you tell me more about this life? He said, your father is a Viking, what you would call general. He's off at war. This is your mother. And I saw the woman come up to me. I was like, it was like I was looking through this young child's eyes. And she came up to me and kissed me and she was being really sweet and all that. And I could tell that was my mother. And about 2 days later, after I came out of that experience, I saw a reading on YouTube and it was for my zodiac sign, Scorpio. And I was just led to click on it. I didn't know why. I had never been on that channel before, but it came up in my recommendations. Somehow I saw it, clicked on it, and the lady said, yes, some of you Scorpios, you're Viking. You were Viking in a past life. Your father was some kind of Viking general. And I was like, there's no fucking way. there's no way that I had this private experience, and this stranger on the internet is saying the
Listen,
same
those
thing that
YouTube
I just heard.
recommendations, them shits is a bitch.
Yes.
They be messing
Hey,
you
that I
up.
call it spirit realm communication because they be putting stuff up there that's right on time for me.
That you would never even search. You would never find that channel unless it was recommended. It's crazy.
That's right. And when she said that, I paused it and I just could. I replayed it a couple times because I couldn't believe my ears. She said, "Yeah, I'm just getting that some of these Scorpios are descended from the Vikings. You had a father who was some kind of Viking general." And I was like, "Wow!" And this has happened to my spiritual mom too. People have told her things about her past lives, and then they wouldn't have known otherwise. So that's how I knew it was legitimate. And also because I had so many other confirmations of not being from here. And so when we talk about incarnations, I was personally told this is my last incarnation, but I can't be sure because there is such a thing as rewriting soul contracts. So even though God said this is your last time, your last go around, um, I hope that I don't bump my head and agree to come back here again. I mean, I don't mind helping because that's why I came, but I really hope that I don't bump my head and feel like, oh no, I'll go on the ride again. No, I don't think I should do that personally, but if it happens, it happens, you know? Um, it's
It's
been wild.
it's the Matrix carousel, and it's
Yes.
just it's not, I'm naturally a solutionist. I don't know if it was necessarily my simulation mother that instilled that in me, but I learned that from my mom. Like, she was always a solutionist. She always tried to solve the problem, and I kind of stole that from her. And I'm always about, let's solve the problem, and it's not hard. Like, that's why I just try to build a network full of real people that can peel back all the layers of the bullshit, all the layers of the distractions. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think it's hard. You wake up, if you the sheep are gonna go in whichever way is pretty much, I guess, popular. Not necessarily the truth, but popular. So if we can make the truth trend, right? If you can make telling the truth trending, then the sheep, you know what I mean? Like, those millions of sheep, they're gonna be backing us. And then the people that run this planet of the simulation, they're gonna be at our feet. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's hard. It's just something about unity. Motherfuckers hate
Yes.
it.
That's right.
You know.
Can't stand it. Mm.
Now, let's just real briefly talk about the law of attraction. Um, oh man, one of the kings in the chat said May 11th. Hold on, my birthday is on May 11th. Stop, cut it out. Stop playing. Let's
Oh,
talk
oh
about.
no, no. My birthday is 11/12.
Oh wow,
11/12. Yeah,
I love 11. That's my favorite number. I don't even know why. I was
yeah.
born on May 11th. I don't know. That's just my favorite number. I don't know.
Oh, that's a blessing. Okay, that's what's up. Yeah, no, my birthday, that 56, that's that 11 connected to my birthday, my birth weight, and all of that. But no, I was born November 12th, right after midnight. And I was told that they wouldn't allow me to be born on 11/11/11, which would have been 11/11/83, because they was like, we wouldn't be able to handle you. And I don't know why they said that, but it was like we weren't gonna let you come. Whatever forces intervened, my mother told me they could not get me out until right after midnight. So they just wasn't gonna let me come through the portal at that time, 11/11/11 portal. But I do know people who were born on 11/11. One lady, one friend of mine, she's very in tune and on this vibration too. She was born 11/11/77. So you know, those birthdays matter. People don't believe in astrology, but I have not found it to be a lie thus far, personally.
No, that's a fact.
Mm,
Now let's just real
yeah.
briefly talk about the law of attraction, and the meditation that's also involved. Do you feel like it works, or do you feel like it's more demonic? One of my close friends, he stumbled upon this law of attraction information. I don't know if you're familiar with this woman on YouTube called Esther, and she channels this entity called Abraham. And my whole problem was, even though the information might be on point, it might be truthful, it might be solid, I just don't trust necessarily people that I'm the type of person that if I'm generating information, I would prefer it to come from my own source. That's just my
Hmm.
preference. Now, this
Hmm.
individual on YouTube called Esther, she channels an entity called Abraham, and I'm not knocking it, and I'm not, whatever. It's just she channels another entity, and the entity is providing that information. So, what are your thoughts on law of attraction? Do you feel like does it work, or do you feel like it's more of a demonic practice?
I believe that there are tenets or aspects to the law of attraction that do work, like the concept of gratitude, being grateful for what you have so that you can then attract more abundance to your life. I think that is a real foundational truth. But when it comes to Esther channeling Abraham, I came across Abraham Hicks several years ago, and but however, I was always suspicious of the concept of The Secret, because The Secret is known to be a writing produced by high level occultists that are technically Satanists and or Luciferians. So when she's channeling this entity, at first when I came across her, I thought her name was Abraham because she went by Abraham Hicks. And then I realized,
Right.
okay, no, this entity is named Abraham. So no, I don't trust it, because anytime you have, and I won't say this as far as, ancestors, your righteous ancestors, um, angelics, um, ascended masters, and things like that, because they can give you information. But if you seem to be, in my opinion, becoming possessed and something speaking through you, that's a problem, because your vessel's open, and it makes me wonder, okay, if your vessel's open, what else could be there? What else do you allow in? I know you're not just letting the so-called righteous come in. So who is Abraham, and what is Abraham about? And so my personal belief is that yes, it is demonic, and because there are demons that'll give you good information. I mean, they are very old and very so-called wise. That's why America has a lot of the technology that it has, it's because of them. So that's not a secret, but the root, in my opinion, of the law of attraction is in Kabbalah and or Gnosticism, but it's not in the good aspects of Gnosticism. It's more in the what you could call gray magic or dark magic. So there's white, gray, dark, and black magic. And I think that the secret has been cloaked as something that is benign, but it's not. Anytime you have billionaires like Oprah and other people admonishing using this program, you have to question where it's coming from. Because if it was that easy, we would all be billionaires or millionaires. So why are they selling it? I personally think it's a cult.
Yo, it's so crazy. I literally said the same thing to her. Like, I literally said the same thing. I said, I just don't trust outside. I mean, demons will tell, just like agents on YouTube, they will tell you, they got to mix the truth in with the lies. So they'll tell you two truths and a lie. That's
Hmm.
their job. That's what they were
Hmm.
hired to do. They are employees for the Illuminati. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, but I always felt, and I don't know, this is why I feel like this information came from a completely different dimension. Because how can I think like this? How can that information, unless it comes from my own source, I don't trust the intentions of it. Is what I'm saying.
Hmm. I don't trust it either. The foundation is definitely of the occult, and I do study the occult. However, I think that what Abraham Hicks has going on, along with people like I think allegedly what Abraham Hicks has going on, as well as people allegedly like Teal Swan have going on, are high level cults. They are spiritual cults, new age cults. And the term new age is really a misnomer because there's really nothing new. A lot of the stuff that we are learning or talking about has been discussed before. Um, but whatever this spirit is, I did not have a good feeling about it because when people listen to her, she seems to have an unnatural control over people. So I didn't trust it from that aspect alone and from her appearance. Same with Teal Swan. Teal Swan strikes me as a reptilian. Now, personally, you can look. I look in her face, and there's something that is strange about her face that's otherworldly. Now, there are star seeds and Arcturians and Pleiadians and other people here from other systems, but I don't believe what she's dealing with is of the light. I think it's of the dark. I just think it's cloaking itself. Same for allegedly Abraham Hicks, because if you have that kind of control over people, you are either engaging in hypnosis or some other or neuro linguistic programming or something else to gain control over the mind and therefore over the spirit. Why is the law of attraction so important to you? If the law of attraction were so powerful as you tell people, why haven't you stopped these wars? Why haven't you stopped this pedophilia and these Pizzagate rings? Why haven't you stopped that if it's so powerful? That's when I get savage with these people that run this shit.
You talking real spicy right now, Queen.
You
You
know you
talking.
I'm sorry, but
You
you
talking
talking about
spicy.
money and you can pull anything through the vortex. Why don't you pull some motherfucking guns and jail cells and some shit to lock these people up? Is doing all of this shit. Why don't you do that shit? Pull some spirits through that's gonna stop them from doing this stuff. But you're not gonna stop it because you probably participate in it. Because I heard allegedly that Abraham Hicks was involved with the secret. That her and her husband, not Abraham Hicks, excuse me, Esther, was going to write or be a part of that whole production with The Secret, but they declined at the last minute, probably in order to have their own cult following.
And that's
So
how
that's my thing. It's like, okay, you got all this power and you can pull the universe at your will. Stop some of these problems then.
and that's
That's
the
how I feel about these people that
that
teach that.
that's the problem with, you know A lot of these content creators. Um, that's the problem with it's just that hive mind. It just seems like this human vessel is programmed to just not primarily fall into this hive mind, opposed to think first individually. Like a lot of these content creators, and I ain't gonna name names. We're just gonna whatever. But a lot of these content creators with 100,000 subscribers and up, they just running YouTube cults, and then when you call them out on it, you get attacked by the hive. By the hive,
Absolutely.
it's crazy,
Absolutely.
and it's
Absolutely.
just sad that the realest people on this platform, as far as YouTube, we don't get the credit we deserve. We don't have as many subscribers as we should have. We probably have millions of subscribers, but YouTube is probably hiding our subscribers from us, to be honest with
I agree. 100% I agree with that because, it's just like what Dr. Savage exposed the other day on his community tab. And the channel I'm referring to is Dr. Savage 84. He put up on his community tab that, oh, great, they just recently allowed him to get to 1,000 subs. And then the other day he got to like 3,300 subs or 3,003 subs. But then under his impressions, it said 1.2 or 1.3 million impressions. So how can you have all these impressions but only have 3,000 subs?
facts.
So I
Facts.
know I'm shadow banned and censored and blacklisted. I know that.
And that's
People have seen
that's
sent me the
why I tell
screenshot.
people it don't whatever that number is underneath your name is absolutely irrelevant. The only thing that matters is your reach and the interaction. That's the only thing that matters.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. So, I they're I don't believe they're ever going to lay off of us because now we're starting to, people like us are starting to make mainstream media, they're now talking about the the fact that we say the masks don't work. No, y'all said it didn't work. We just caught y'all in y'all's lies.
And and
Y'all said that.
everybody want a podcast now. Everybody want to
Mhm.
talk like metaphysical life mastery. All the rappers, all the athletes, they all want podcasts now. But a couple years ago, people that did podcasts, they were looked at as lame, right?
Right.
People that
Right.
spoke the truth and people that were into these conspiracy theories, reality experts, right? We were looked at as clowns. It kind of reminds me of the rap game with Kanye. When Kanye came out, that the selling crack music was popping. The Jay-Z, the hustling music, the Dipset, they was popping. But now Kanye came in with the pink polo, and now he's the most popular rapper in the game. So it's like
Mhm.
I feel like the truth community is taking over, and I just feel like we need to continue doing what we're doing. But you know, content creators like you are the most important because, like I said, you peel back all the layers of the distraction and you expose everything. And a lot of people, like one of the kings in the live chat said, it's a matrix inside of a matrix. And the problem is, like you were saying, the people that didn't want to wake up in your city, they stuck in a certain dimension in the matrix, and they just can't, ascend to the next level.
It's true. Thank you. It's true. And I remember when I first woke up, they referred to the matrix as a 64-bit tetrahedron cube, Saturn's cube, Saturn's time prison, time warp. So yes, it is a matrix within a matrix within a matrix because that's what a cube is. It's walls within walls within walls. And even if you think about Star Trek, how they depicted the Borg, they came out of that cube. So that's what we're dealing with. The maze. I even think of the Matrix documentary with the keymaker. He kept opening different doors to different dimensions, but they were still in the Matrix, though.
You
Technically.
just said the movie The Maze. There's a movie called The Maze.
Oh, it is. Oh, I meant to say the Matrix documentary. My bad. Yeah,
No, no,
but
no.
it's like a maze,
There's a movie called The Maze, and it depicts
right?
exactly what you're talking about. People trying to break out of the
Right.
paradigm.
I forgot about that movie. You're right. And the term maze just came up in my
Yeah.
mind, but I didn't remember the
The
movie the maze.
the Maze
Yeah,
Runner. You ever saw that movie, The
yeah,
Maze
Maze
Runner?
Runner.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
exactly what it's about.
so
This
long.
new world order that they're trying to put in place right now. It's on the
Yeah, I'm
same
gonna go back and
level.
watch that.
It's on the same level as the what was it called? The Hunter Games. I can't remember.
Hunger
Yeah,
Games. Yep.
yeah, the Hunger Games. Yeah. So it's
Yep.
wow. Shout out Metaphysical Life Mastery. Okay. This is when did you wake
Thank
up? I'm
you.
trying so hard not to hold, not to hold you up, but
You're
it's
good. You're
just
good.
you want a different vibe. Your vibration hit different.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Let me
A
see.
lot of people, don't fuck with me because, I'm a little bit too intense, especially in real life. There are people around me that, they love my vibe, and then there's other people that are just, in a certain vibration and in a certain place in their life where I am a threat to them. And so that's why I'm a loner technically, because most people are not trying to hear it, and even if I don't speak, they can feel it all. They can feel that coming off of me. The resistance to the system, rage against the machine, hashtag rage against the machine. They can feel that coming off of me even if I don't speak. You know, I can sit quietly
But
in the
that's how
corner
powerful your
and not
energy
say
is.
anything.
That's how powerful your energy is.
Well,
That's how powerful your aura is.
thank Thank you. I just thank God because, when even if I am quiet, people tend to come up to me and ask me questions, or they find their way to me. Either way, I try to make myself small and not upset the vibration, the low vibration in certain places I would be in. But it was inevitable because people would get uncomfortable being around me. They would get uncomfortable and want to shoo me off or whatever, that's all good. But then later they would come back and say, you know what you said about this was right. I just wasn't ready to receive it, and that's okay. But I think I underestimate, just how powerful frequency and truth is
So you say you
when I
five
do.
two, right?
Yes.
You might as well be 12 foot 8 in these streets.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You're so kind. Yeah, I'm 5'2", 137 pounds.
Hey, you'll fuck
Yes.
some shit up about some truth.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
I can clearly see that you're in tune with the universe, but this I'm honored to have this interview. But next up, I'm trying to interview the Galactic Council. Can you put me on? Can I get an interview with the Galactic Council next?
Ooh, that's deep right there. That's deep right there. Cause see, let me tell you something. The Galactic Council will tell you to hell with that bullshit if they not trying to talk to you. Okay, that's in my experience. So you got people out here talking about, well, the Galactic Council said this, and the Galactic Council said that, and it ain't the damn Galactic Council, because they don't just, they don't talk to anybody. I will do my best to see if I have any messages from, you know, the cosmic elders, as it were, because sometimes they're just not trying to hear my bullshit. Meaning they don't want to be in. They don't want to be interviewed. I call myself being a smart ass a couple of weeks ago, and when I went into Dreamscape and I called myself trying to ask Anubis a question, and Anubis was like, "I ain't got time to talk to you right now." And it just turned in, like
Can
was
you
not
can
trying to
you
hear. So
elaborate on
they
who
are like
Anubis
that.
is? Can you elaborate on who Anubis
So
is?
Anubis is Anpu or Inpu from ancient Egypt. He is the jackal-headed god, Egyptian god of mummification and the afterlife. As well as the so-called god slash way station guard of the lost souls. So one would have seen Anubis depicted in those movies called The Mummy, as well as The Mummy Part One and Part Two, and then you would also have seen him with as depicted with Horus or Heru and Osiris, as well as Set, or the god of evil, um, in Gods of Egypt, which starred who was that? Nikolai Coster Waldau from Game of Thrones, and Gerard Butler, who is a Scorpio, by the way. See, they had Gerard play Set because Gerard is a Scorpio, and Scorpio is connected to that darkness and that Set energy. So, yes, Anubis is one of the oldest gods of Egypt. And he was also, he is depicted, or was depicted, if you want to see him in a movie, in Gods of Egypt, as the one who was commander over the weighing of the heart. The heart needs to be as light as the feather or lighter, and if it's not, then you go down a dark path, as put it in plain terms. So Anubis will also give a lot of knowledge and insight on karma, retribution, all of those things that are associated with Scorpio and the underworld, and or Plutonian energy. So I can't even remember what I was going to ask him, but I just know he didn't have time for me that day. So I heard professional high priestess, shout out to her, professional Daisy Ozuma, professional high priestess, tarot. She has a channel. She also said that Anubis was frustrated when she saw him in the astral or in the etheric environment, because he had a lot of work to do. So she said that, and it wasn't long before that I had an experience, and he was like, "I don't have time to talk right now. I'll get back to you another time, or you can come back another time." So the Galactic Council, it would be my pleasure to see what messages they have, and um, possibly have an interview with them. I don't know who, or if they are going to communicate, because I have not tuned in a while. I have not tuned in a while, but uh, there are a lot of us that are in the truther community that are commanders and commandresses, and we don't know it. So that's technically fallen under the leadership of Galactic Council. And but you have a lot of liars out here, though, in the conscious and spiritual community, saying that they're in tune with Galactic Council, and they're really working for the dark side. So they'll call it Galactic Council, but they're reptilian overlords.
Jesus Christ. All right. Well,
A lot of
Queen,
trickery going on.
Queen, I'm gonna ask you two more questions because I didn't held you hostage for almost an hour and a half.
It's
Um,
okay.
what's your favorite conspiracy theorist movie?
Ooh, that's a good question. Definitely the Matrix trilogy, but going further than that, I actually like something in the fantasy genre that's not technically considered. Well, there are two more. So I really am a fan of the Matrix trilogy, but I also enjoy Jupiter Ascending, which starred Channing Tatum. Was it Jupiter Ascending? Yes, Jupiter Ascending. And I also like something in the fantasy realm, which is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And the reason why I like that is because it gives a very accurate depiction of Middle Earth in an esoteric sense. The Tolkien books gave, in my opinion, a very, very truthful history of of this galaxy. I haven't read all of his books to know what's in all of them, but the lesser discussed books like the Silmarillion and, of course, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, it discusses things that went on in the earth before normal so-called mankind was here. But even so, normal mankind was here. It's just such an old history, and he got that from somewhere. So I believe that is more on the, instead of the conspiracy aspect, the occult aspect. Other conspiracy theory movies that I like would be Inception, Minority Report, mm, I enjoy uh, space space genre or galactic type of shows like The Expanse, which is on Amazon Prime, because in my opinion, they are showing what their intentions are with colonizing other moons and planets, and the UN not just being an earthbound entity to keep all the nations in check, but eventually potentially becoming an intergalactic agency that keeps other planets in check too.
Have you ever seen this TV show
So
called The
it's pretty.
Colony?
Oh yeah, the Colony. You know, I have so many Colony with the guy from that played Lost, and what was her name? The lady from The Walking Dead that played what was her name? Lori. Lori got on my damn nerves in The Walking Dead is another show that I absolutely love. You know, even though it's fallen off some, I love The Walking Dead. I love Fear the Walking Dead, Colony, um, any kind of dystopian future show or conspiracy show or movie. I'm usually right there because I know they're telling a lot of truth. I'm also a fan of Marvel movies, Transformers, you know, the Avengers, and things like that, Guardians of the Galaxy.
What
Uh,
about what was his name? The guy that got all the stones. What was his name?
oh, Thanos.
Thanos.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Thanos? Was
Well,
he
you
a good
know,
guy or a bad guy?
Thanos was a necessary evil, as they say. You know, it's the devil you know or the devil you don't know. And Thanos is based off of, and it's interesting that you asked me that because I was about to say that, but I just told to be quiet. Thanos is based off of the Greek spirit of death named Thanatos. That's who Thanos is, and so that's why he wanted to kill off everything. But death is necessary. Death is a necessary cleaner of this society and of this planet. So Thanos, I think, is like allegedly your Bill Gates.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I think Thanos is kind of like your Bill Gates, uh, global killer in a way, you know. But you know, he got benefit because I got a Microsoft computer here. So you know, you got good stuff, and then you got you know the bad. But out of all of the characters in Avengers or the Avengers and Avengers Infinity War, I think my favorite was probably I really like Black Panther, but I also liked Vision for his psychic abilities. It just sucks that they killed Vision so easily, you know. Vision and his girlfriend for the psychic aspect, but Thanos, I couldn't dislike Thanos because I'm one of those people who identifies with the anti-hero and or sometimes with the villain. So like in Marvel's The Punisher, I like the Punisher. Personally, I think he's doing what needs to be done.
I feel like the Joker was an anti-hero. I don't think he was a bad
Yes.
guy.
Yeah, I think he's an anti-hero too. Absolutely. Excuse me. Yeah. I don't think I have no problem with the Joker. Personally, I have no problem with the Joker.
Wow.
Uh, he said things that people wanted to say but were not brave enough to say. You know, um, there was a very important quote that the Joker had, and I came across it. One of his quotes was, when they call you crazy, remember that genius ideas don't come from average minds." And he also had another quote about society or the government. Um, One of the quotes was, "Their morals, their code is a bad joke, dropped at the first sign of trouble. They're only as good as the world allows them to be. You'll see. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve." So yeah, he's an anti-hero for sure.
Wow. And there's a lot of
But yeah,
theories that
that's why
Batman.
I never considered him a villain.
There's a lot of theories that Batman was the bad guy. It just flipped the whole. Batman is my favorite superhero character, but it even fucked my head up because I'm like, Batman was the bad guy because Joker was anti-government. Joker was kind of like pro himself or pro, freedom of mind. I don't know, like, but Batman did everything he could to prevent Joker from, getting people to govern themselves. I kind of feel like
I agree. And Batman was establishment. He was billionaire. He was your
facts.
Bill Gates.
Was Batman the Illuminati?
Hey, absolutely, because they always flip the script and as above, so below. What's up is down and what's down is up.
Like I'm literally, my heart is being broken right now because I'm realizing that, yeah, like Batman was the establishment, and it sucks because I fucking love Batman.
Yeah, I like Batman too, but I was never a die-hard fan. But Batman is establishment because he's military industrial complex too, and police. He's all of them in one. He's billionaire. He's your billionaire oligarch
Why
that
you
run
gotta?
America
Why you,
and shit.
Bree? Why you gotta call my man police? You didn't have to say it like that.
I'm sorry. No, Batmobile didn't look like a police
Damn.
Bearcat vehicle to you. I mean, they finagled it a little bit, but it had the same tires and the same construction as those military Bearcats that they give police in various cities nowadays. They've been giving them to them for
She
years.
just called my
Now
man.
they got police looking like the soldiers.
Yeah, yep, they're militarizing the police, and that they militarized the police, and then now they're talking about defunding the police. What?
Oh
I don't
hell.
understand America, but I'm gonna let you get up out of here, Queen, on this last question. The last question I want to ask you is: if you lost your memory, say, God forbid, say you lost your memory right now, but could
Hmm.
only keep one piece of truth with you, what would it be?
The truth that I would want to keep with me is that there's somewhere a lot better than here. That's if I couldn't remember anything else, that would give me some kind of hope to go off of. Is that there's somewhere better than here, and I've seen part of it. I've seen at least one of those better places.
What is
So
what
that's
is
that's
better
that
about
one
it?
thing.
What's better about it?
There's peace and diversity and freedom. That's the main thing. It's the freedom because we're not free here. We're not free here. You can't even go to certain continents on this planet without being arrested and probably never seen or heard from again. So it's just, lockdown, prison planet. And I'm not shouting out Alex Jones because I don't fuck with Alex Jones, but prison planet is an accurate term. Skynet. They talk about Skynet because there's a net over the sky and you ain't getting up out of here that easy. That's why we telling people, y'all, people, some of these fake conscious people be talking about jumping timelines and escaping the matrix. How are you going to escape the matrix when you haven't handled past life karmic debts? You still have debts to pay here. You're not just going to fly out of here with no problem. That's why they call it Skynet for a reason. There's a ceiling. And only certain souls are going to get through. That's my opinion. That's my disclaimer is that that is my opinion from what I discern about it.
When did you
You try to
wake
suck
up?
my right.
Metaphysical life mastery, Queen. Definitely tell everybody, that heard the sound of your voice where they can find you on social media platforms. If they want to get in contact with you and get this knowledge. We all students, and we need these lessons. Where can people find you?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for listening and for chiming in the chat. And thank you so much, Low Key T, for having me on. I enjoyed this. It was an honor and a pleasure. I'm on Instagram. You can find me at metaphysical dot life, life dot mastery. I also have that's my business page, but my personal page is cosmic dot jewel, jewel with two L's, Jewell. On Facebook, you can find me as Bree Bellamy, Bre Bellamy, Bella. M is in Mary, Y. And I am also on YouTube, of course. I have a YouTube channel. It's Metaphysical Life Mastery, and I think I've got almost 500 videos. So I'm gonna keep rolling with the content. I also have a podcast on 7 or 8 different platforms. It's on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Stitcher, Radio Public. I have a SoundCloud that I'm working on, but it's not public yet. But on the podcast, you can also find me as Metaphysical Life Mastery. If you just Google, you'll find all the podcast listings, and you can go to your favorite platform and hear it. But I do most of my content on YouTube.
Well, I respect you, Queen, for doing your part in breaking the matrix. So, with that, this was When Did You Wake Up? The special guest today was Metaphysical Life Mastery, aka Bree. Appreciate you pulling up, Queen, and we up out of here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Much love and much respect.